Why? Why do I have to review this awful cartoon? Why? I'm Lonely Fanboy Flay here, and welcome to the final videos of Cartoon Crisis. I only wish that the final episode that I'm reviewing isn't an adult cartoon. But apparently, after accepting the inevitable, I have to review this episode. Anyway, let's talk about Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon. Here's the thing. I never watched the original Ren and Stimpy cartoon. But when I watch the Adult Party cartoon, it ruins people's personalities. Just of how terrible the cartoon is. This is by far the worst cartoon in cartoon history. If you don't understand why, the writers made it raunchy as hell. A lot of raunchy as hell. Why? Because they're completely psychotic since they don't work for Nickelodeon anymore. The cartoon was so bad that it didn't have a reboot, and it probably never will. And not only that, almost half of the episodes didn't even air whatsoever on Spike TV. That's right, the cartoon was so terrible, it didn't even show all the episodes on Spike TV. And you have no idea what you're getting yourself into after watching a terrible, terrible cartoon. There was not a lot of people who made reviews of these episodes because of how terrible they are. Now, the only episodes that I do know is Naked Beach House Frenzy, I think that's the name of it, and Stimpy's Pregnant. Also the episode that we're going to review today. Naked Beach Frenzy is nothing more than porn. That's really what the entire episode is. And it's just very disgusting to watch through the entire episode. I would easily make a review on that episode since no one else has, but considering the fact of the sexual content in it, I don't think I can be able to upload this on YouTube to show my full opinions. Even though I can just easily censor it. But I digress. Stimpy's Pregnant was the final episode of this show. And to be quite honest, I already know of this episode because Gem Reviews made a review on that episode. That's all I know from the episode, except that it's still one of the worst episodes. And nothing is good in Ren and Stimpy's Adult Party cartoon. Nearly all the jokes is just raunchy, disgusting, and very, very immature. And trust me, if you haven't watched the original cartoon, you can tell that what you're watching right now is by far the worst of them all. And what episode I'm going to review from this cartoon? Ren Seeks Help. This episode is by far the worst episode in cartoon history. Worse than One Course Meal. Worse than all the torture porns that I reviewed. And trust me, this is pretty much one of the biggest reasons why this show got canceled on Spike TV. The episode was so horrible, it ruined the cartoon. The only way to watch some of the episodes is to get it on DVD, and that's it. The only way to watch most of the episodes is that you can't watch them on TV because they will probably be banned, even though they already have. You're gonna have to buy them on DVD to watch the rest of the episodes. Anyway, let's get into the review. This is Ren Seeks Help. This is hell. This is really hell. The episode starts with Stimpy crying like crazy because Ren told him a very disturbing and unbelievable story. Yeah. The episode starts with this kind of drama, and you can tell that in the middle of the episode and the rest will scar you for life. Here's one of the infamous problems from this episode, the music. They are all stock, and it's very unprofessional for a show that is for adults. I know it has nothing to do with the major problems in the show, but this is just lazy. It's very lazy when someone who worked on the show before has little intelligence on to make better music or original music. I mean, the fact that these are professionals, they should at least know what they're doing. And worst of all, during the time when they do these stock effects, they are so out of place. I know the clip that I show you is confusing, but I can just tell you that Dr. Horse isn't a villain in this episode. He's not even a bad guy in general. He's just doing his job. I know I keep skipping into so many topics, and we just started already, but this show is so unprofessional, it's actually amazing on how it got canceled so easily. This show was easily canceled than the Attack cartoon, and that show was so forgettable. Anyway, Win admits that he's completely messed up in the head, so he goes to a hospital so he can talk to Dr. Horse about his problems. And then we go through hell, and I am not making this up. Anyway, before you continue with this, I'm just gonna let you know that there's gonna be a lot of dystopian imagery like I stated in the beginning of this video. And gonna be more in later parts of this project. I warned you, this isn't supposed to be kid-friendly, you know. Okay, hopefully you don't get scarred for life while you go to sleep. When Wen explains about his birth, he actually knew he was coming out of you-know-what. And not only that, the doctor completely slapped Wen while he was still with the cord that connects to his mother. And now he has a slap, which means the pain will be part of him for the rest of his life. Time freaking out. I know this is supposed to be a cartoon, but for a cartoon for adults, they still have to do the most immature and most disturbing ways to scar for us. Firstly, how can you have someone get out of yourself while you're still pregnant with the cord still connect to your mother? And as for the slap that Wen receives, it was probably the doctor's fault for having this episode exist. No, it's the wires. I'm always gonna blame the wires because they're completely raunchy and disturbed. Seriously, this is even worse than Conker's Bad Fur Day. I know that's a video game and it's not as raunchy as this, but I'd rather play that game than watching this crap. And yes, there are going to be disturbing content, but I'm not going to show all of them just to save your sanity. All I can just show you are what Wen is going to do with his problem that he got. During the next couple of years, with the pain that he got in himself, he completely caused harm on other animals. And it's actually kind of disturbing. He pulls legs off a caterpillar. He uses firecrackers to destroy ants. And what he loves to torture the most is the frog. I told you this was raunchy. How can Sven can easily harm a frog? I mean, the frog didn't do anything. And I don't care if Wen is psycho in the head. Seriously, this is just disturbing. And the images that we see him torturing the frog is by far the worst in this episode. He completely uses a bike to get all the guts out of the frog. I'm not making this up. If you want to see any of this to show more proof that I'm right, then you're gonna have to watch the episode yourself, because I'm not showing any of this. It's disturbing and horrible. And this goes on for way too long. The only time where Wen completely stops beating up the frog is when he was about to hit him with a hammer, but the frog actually said, "Do you think I suffered enough?" And then Wen accepts it by not destroying the frog. You know what this episode also does? It completely manipulates our intelligence. You really think that Wen completely stopping the torturing to the frog would be good enough. But no, this is just the beginning. We're already halfway into this episode, and the worst has yet to come. I know we've seen a lot of worse stuff in this episode, but you know you're gonna be very, very sick. A lot. Wen stop torturing the frog isn't gonna help this episode whatsoever. And trust me, the more you see of Wen in this episode, the more you will hate him. And then we get to see his father. I don't watch the show, so I have little information about this. But anyways, he demands Wen to kill the frog with a chainsaw. And also during that time, father and his wife make out while this is happening. This is also confusing. I mean, the fact that we don't get a lot of sexual contact in this episode and most of it is just violence. This is literally desperately to have variety for adults. And it's done poorly. But apparently, Wen didn't kill the frog because he actually knows that if you keep the frog alive, he will still feel the pain and suffering. Yes, the frog wants to die because he can't handle the pain anymore. And then Wen refused to have that to happen. Wen is getting worse and worse. Here's a fact. If you ever got injured and there's a point where you want to kill yourself because of all the pain and misery that your life is getting, will you die? Because that's what the frog is just trying to do. And death is pretty much the only option for him, so his life is officially over since nothing good could come out of it. But when Wen completely keeps him alive, oh my god. You can pretty much know that the frog wants to die no matter what. And things get even more worse later on. Luckily, the story has finally ended. And then Dr. Horse tells him what's really wrong with him. Now, in the majority of this episode, he's more calm on listening to Wen's story. But after everything he heard, he completely freaks out. After hearing the entire story, you finally freak out. At this point, you can pretty much just call the cops since he was harming that frog in the first place. And I do not mean the chainsaw faking thing. I meant the guts thing. I'm sorry for disturbing you. And when these two argue, Wen says that what kind of a psychiatrist are you? And then the doctor says, psychiatrist? I'm a horse. I would easily go on and on how stupid this line is, but at this point, everyone in this show is so stupid and they think they can do whatever they want because rules do not exist and Wen seeks help, and so is the other episodes. So they get into a brutal fight until the animal control comes, which means that Wen is going to be stuck into prison for a very long time. Except the next episodes that came out after this episode. Seriously, if only this was the final episode of this show and this franchise, then this would probably be the greatest thing in this episode.